There's plenty of studies that show in California if you're low income and a person of color, and if you live in the Central Valley, you're going to be exposed to toxic water.
All our work really centers around those who are homeless or have a high potential of becoming homeless.
I see women who sacrifice themselves just so their children can have a place to sleep at night.
We want people to see as part of their civic duty to be involved in their community.
It's become a community of innovators and a second home for a lot of these boys.
What we do now for people in immigration detention doesn't just affect them, but it affects their children and their grandchildren and generations to come.
In South Central Los Angeles, young men of color are exposed to gangs and crimes, but less than 1% of these schools offer computer science education. Teens Exploring Technology uses technology as a tool to empower young Black and Latino boys to become catalysts of change in urban communities.
Hey Doug, I'm entering.
They are not just learning how to code, they're learning how to be leaders, how to articulate opinions and problems and solutions to those problems.
Have like a nice stable job.
You can imagine a future where they become decision makers at companies later on in their career that can have really positive impacts.
They recognize my voice now.
Yeah.
I didn't know
What they're learning is how to be the creators of their own future.
Approximately 1 million Californians don't have access to safe drinking water in their homes and schools. Community water centers trying to make sure that water quality protection, funding, decisions are being driven by those most impacted and actually addressing their needs.
Our strategy is to do massive outreach and organizing.
One of the major breakthroughs that the Community Water Center has reached has been a different level of communication with the agricultural industry. They're now in partnership to fund communities that need safe drinking water.
We've engaged nearly 5,000 people across 69 different communities in the southern San Joaquin.
It's really going to take communities themselves standing up and saying, this is a priority, let's roll up our sleeves and make it happen.
At any given night, there's close to 10,000 people that are homeless in San Diego. They're single individuals, they're couples, they're families with children, and they don't fit in the molds of that chronic homelessness which most of the services are catered towards. Our safe parking program focuses on those who are homeless and living in their cars. Most services are performed right there in the parking lot. And they work with our case managers to help them stabilize and get back into permanent housing.
Order number 51, 2 breakfast burritos.
And we also have workforce training development for individuals that have high barriers to employment. And we strongly believe in integrating financial education into all the work that we do. And our real goal is to make sure that everyone's receiving the tax credits that you guys are eligible for. So this is the graph.
The challenge in places like San Diego and parts of California, we don't have the availability of affordable housing. Dreams for Change provides us really a national model that could be replicated across the country.
On any given day, there are over 40,000 people who are detained in immigration detention. It's important to have a visitation program because otherwise human rights abuses are happening without anyone being aware of them.
We are a national nonprofit monitoring immigration detention conditions. We started the very first visitation program here in the state of California, and now we have over 40 programs around the country. We also run a national hotline that allows people to call us at no cost to them.
This is an organization that's innovative and that's involved in changing policy through litigation, through legislation, and policy work at all levels.
In California, we detain about a quarter of all people in immigration detention. So this year, we got a Dignity Not Detention Act passed. This is the first bill in the country to put a moratorium on the expansion of private immigration detention facilities in the state.
There are women who have lost their children in the system and they try to reclaim their kids. But without having a solid foundation such as housing, many of them lose custody of their children forever. Time for Change Foundation wraps its arms around homeless women and children, and we take them through a journey to self-sufficiency. Over the last 15 years, we've created 2 shelters, 13 permanent supportive housing units, and we developed 1 affordable housing project. We don't just put a mother and her child into an apartment and close the door. We make sure that that child has an educational track and they're getting their social and emotional needs met.
90% of graduates are with their children, retain sobriety, have a job, live independently. I mean, this is a remarkable story.
There's nothing that says you can't have your children and rebuild life at the same time. There shouldn't have to be a choice.
In California, low-income communities, people of color, immigrants, young people, oftentimes don't vote and therefore their voice is not heard. We're talking 10 to 11 million people who are either eligible but not registered voters or who are registered but don't vote.
Now we have to look at what it's actually going to take, and there's 3 pieces.
We built California Calls to work on increasing civic participation of low-income communities of color.
We got some lovely folks.
It's an alliance of 31 organizations from around the state.
Hi, my name is LaDamian Flowers. I'm a community organizer.
The successes that we have had would have been impossible without California Calls. Having everybody in the state work on the same issues at the same time, this has really created a very strong social force.
It's really about what's an agenda that can improve the lives of people in the communities that we work and combined with other people in your neighborhoods and other neighborhoods in LA County and other counties in California. That's what makes a difference.